All right, switching gears now. The White House will not cooperate with impeachment inquiries, rejecting demands for testimony or documents related to this issue. So this is on the heels of the State Department directing the U.S. ambassador to the EU to skip his appearance before the House. For more on this, let's bring in investigative journalist and host of Fault Lines radio show, Lee Stranahan. Lee, good to see you.
Great to see you, Manila. Thanks.
So it's no surprise here, right? The White House isn't going to make it easy for this inquiry to happen. But let's clarify something for the viewers here.
Sure.
An impeachment is not the removal of somebody from office. It is the political equivalence of like an indictment of, say, if Joe Schmo committed a crime. The question here is, if Trump doesn't believe he committed any crimes, why not cooperate?
Well, I think Trump called this a kangaroo court on Twitter, and I think he is right. Here's the problem you've got. It's not just that this is an impeachment in search of a crime, which it seems to be. Don't forget, they've been talking. I was here for the Women's March, the day after the inauguration. They were talking impeachment then.
Yes.
So they've been looking for something to indict him for. But here's what's worse. This is what the mainstream media doesn't want to cover. Anybody can see the transcript of his call with Zelensky.
Yes.
They're making this about Hunter Biden. And as you and I talked about back in July, this is really, the big scandal here is really about the Democrats' interference and collusion with the government of Ukraine in 2016. And if you read his call with Zelensky, read that transcript, he mentions the election interference.
Yeah.
Now, nobody in the media wants to talk about that. So the situation we have, and Adam Schiff is one of the people involved in this, and so is Joe Biden. There is a cover-up going on for what the Democrats did. So this is not just it's a prosecutor who's trying to indict an innocent man. This is the people prosecuting him, and we know now Nancy Pelosi's son is involved in an energy company in Ukraine. These are the people involved in the crime, indicting Trump as a way to cover up what actually happened.
In psychology, that is called projecting.
Right, yes.
So I'm glad you brought up Adam Schiff, because I want to touch on these two whistleblowers. The first one that sparked off this whole impeachment drama went to Congressman Adam Schiff before filing the complaint. We know that he's even admitted that. In the meantime, Congress quietly, redefined what a whistleblower is and the protections surrounding blowing the whistle. Any coincidence?
Well, you're very nice calling them whistleblowers. I have another term for them, which is CIA agents, which is what they are. They're CIA officers, admitted, represented by a lawyer who used to be with the CIA. And I've talked to whistleblowers. We had Bill Binney, the NSA whistleblower, on my radio show on Monday. I work with John Kiriakou, a noted whistleblower.
Right.
These are people who really expose things. What they're doing is, if the CIA just came out and said, we don't like that, and by the way, the reason they're doing is John Brennan was involved in this operation. If the CIA just came out and said, we're going to report what Donald Trump was talking about with a foreign leader, that actually, if you think about it, violates the CIA's charter. They're not supposed to spy on Americans.
Right.
That would be you, me, and the president.
Yes.
So what they've done is, bureaucratically, they've figured out a shortcut. And what you pointed out, Manila, is so important. There's a reason they changed the rules, the definition of a whistleblower. Yeah. And I think I don't care whether you supported Donald Trump in 2016 or not. Everybody should be, if you're the biggest Hillary Clinton supporter in the world, you should be very worried about what is clearly an open CIA coup against the president.
And we also just learned about the CIA being connected to spying on Julian Assange in Ecuador. So, I mean, there's a lot of CIA fingerprints all over a lot of stories in the news right now. And back to this, though, I want to bring up Richard Nixon because of, this impeachment. I think people conflate and confuse impeachment. Contrary to popular belief, Richard Nixon was not impeached. Nixon resigned. He stepped down because his support in Congress had evaporated. So any chance you see Donald Trump following in those footsteps?
Well, there's a few things. Jake Tapper at CNN said something, and I have some problems with Jake, but he pointed out the difference between this and Nixon. He called it the social media troll army that Trump has, but he's right. Here's the difference. When Nixon was going through what he was going through, which, by the way, involves the CIA too, Howard Hunt was one of the Watergate burglars. Anybody can look that up. When he was going through that, he didn't have two things. He didn't have people's ability to pick up their phone and type in and research Alexandra Chalupa, for instance, who's the DNC operative. Nixon didn't have that. But the other thing, and I really think, once again, whether you like Trump or not, Trump has a fighting spirit with the media that we have not seen in any other president. And I think it's going to serve him well. And the media wants to make this out to be like, oh, well, it's over for Trump. But they were saying that before he was elected.
Before, yeah, well before.
Yeah.
And if the Dems do move forward with a vote to formalize this impeachment inquiry process, if this somehow happens, and then over to a full trial, isn't this, Lee, just going to result in a party line acquittal anyway?
Right. Well, that's one of the problems they've got. One of the problems they've got is the math is not with them. Now, Mitch McConnell has come out and said he's open to it. Mitch McConnell is not really Trump's friend, but okay. He's come out and said he's open to it, but I don't think there's any way they're going to get it in the Senate. But the bigger problem they've got is the facts about this scandal. I mentioned Alexandra Chalupa. She's the DNC operative who was really at the center of this operation. She was working with a convicted serial bomber named Brett Kimberlin, and anybody can look them up and find out who they are. Once the facts start to come out about this, and Alexandra Chalupa has now been mentioned by Devin Nunes, and she freaked out about it, and this article that came out in January 2017 in Politico called Ukrainian Sabotage Against Trump Backfires. When that Meet the Press appearance happened, the Chuck Todd, Ron Johnson versus Chuck Todd that happened this past Sunday, Ron Johnson was talking about that Politico article, Ukrainian Sabotage Against Trump Backfires. That was written by Ken Vogel, not a Trump supporter, over at the New York Times right now. And here's the problem they've got. That is a well-reported story that I've been talking about for 2.5 years. When it came out, I asked, I called Ken Vogel, and I said, do you stand by your reporting? He said, absolutely. You can see Chalupa's mentioned in there, and this whistleblower, Andrei Telizhenko, is mentioned in there, and he's talking. And Andrei has said that he was threatened by Poroshenko after Joe Biden personally showed that article to Poroshenko and said, you effed up. He didn't say effed. But Andrei, he told me that about 9 months ago. He told me that about 6 months ago, back in March.
So there are a lot of dots connected.
A lot of documentation, yes.
All right, we will. This is why we have you on, Lee.
Thank you.
You just dig and dig, and you give us all this information. You got to come back, and we'll talk about this some more.
Anytime.
Lee Stranahan, thank you so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.